I'm Ellora. I work as a product manager in Booking.com in the Amsterdam headquarters. And I started my career as a developer in the messaging space, actually. It was long back. And then I still am continuing in the messaging space in product, but this time it's kind of messaging on steroids, as I call it. And things are getting smart, conversations are getting smart. And over the last 2 years, we've tried to build the booking assistant. My plan is to share a few stories, a few anecdotes along in our journey, and hopefully by the end of the talk, you can take away something of how to build conversations at scale. So, Booking.com, how many of you have used Booking.com before? Show of hands. Okay, cool. So this is going to be fun and interactive. So we started off in 1996 as headquarters in Amsterdam, as only looking into accommodations, right? But now, almost 20 years later, our mission is to empower people to experience the world. Experience world and hotels and events and attractions, you name it. Anything you travel, it's going to be booking. So imagine the scale this one time. We have currently 28 million reported listings on our website. 1.5 million room nights booked per day in 43 languages, and we offer 24/7 customer support in all of these 43 languages. So let that sink in for a minute. Okay, if you've used Booking.com, tell me, after you've booked, a lot of you might have to reach out to customer service. Has anybody reached out to customer service? Okay, what kind of topics do you ask? Anybody want to share? What was your case? That's fine. Customer service is there to help. Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds complicated, but did you get the help? Okay, cool. Any other? Okay. Cool. This is also complicated ones. We have like very hardcore travelers in the group right now. Anyone with simpler questions and simpler things to ask that you have ever tried to ask? Yeah? Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, these are all real-life examples, and you all are all right. And this is typically, if we have 1.5 million room nights, you can imagine the complexity. Because flexibility is one of the main value propositions of Booking.com, right? So if we want to offer flexibility, we also have to offer flexibility in our support. But we also get millions of questions which are around changing an extra bed, or adding an extra bed, or the check-in time, or can you let the host know when I'm arriving, and all of those logistic stuff. So we thought, what is a scalable way to do this? You can't have every question that can be answered by either our partners or a customer service. So that was the brain behind building something called the Booking Assistant. And my GIF is working. Okay, great. I didn't expect this to work. But the Booking Assistant is a virtual post-booking customer service agent, and we say it is in training. So it is a very simple conversational UI. Right now, you can see that you can ask Booking, you can write a question, hey, is there a swimming pool in our property? And then the bot can detect what you're talking about and give you an answer about the facilities, the top facilities that there are, and also give you deep links to go into the navigation of the website and then go find your questions. We also call this the Carousel Menu, where we do a lot of sorting exercises, etc., and we see what are travelers asking us the most, and which kind of traveler would need help with which kind of questions. And we try to offer it up front so that it becomes very easy for you to find these easy questions of when can I check in, or can I get an extra bed, etc. So this was the backup slide, by the way, which we don't need anymore. So the vision of the bot is to provide fast and relevant assistance, which feels like magic, right? It has to feel like magic, it has to be simple. That is it. We just want it to be simple and magical. And the thing about booking, like I said, we have to do all of this at scale. So this is kind of what it can do. So it can automate your answers. It uses NLP to figure out what your intent is. It liaises with a lot of our back-end systems, tries to get the most relevant content out there for you. Sometimes it can also give you direct self-service. For example, if you have a question about cancellation, we can point you to where you can go and cancel best. Sometimes it can also, this is kind of a moonshot right now, that we want to provide proactive assistance. We have baby steps towards it already. And eventually, our goal in booking is that if you as a traveler have a question, we need to give you an answer. And we don't care whether it's the machine giving you the answer or a human who can help you best. For example, the queries that you told us, of course, the machine would not be able to answer completely. So then we would connect you to the right person. So this is kind of the framework we use. And this is something internally we kind of tell ourselves every time, that we are not a chatbot. We are a conversational agent. We use the messaging UI and the interface, but we're not a chatbot, more like a hybrid assistant between a human and between a robot, and we try to make it work. So this is the strategy we're going with right now. So overall, we know that this is simple, right? You have more users who are using our bot at scale, more topics, more messages that we in-house train. All our topics are trained in-house, which is I was looking at the other talks as well, which is very interesting that we have such industry tools right now which can make it very scalable, but we've attempted to do it in-house, and the scale kind of ad booking empowers us to do it as well. And then we get more automated replies and the bot learns itself, right? So we launched this, say 2 years back in English. That was our first pilot. We did an MVP, we launched it out. And then the bot's been traveling. The bot's now learned 9 new languages, and it's been traveling across. It's been in Spain, and German, and English, and Chinese, Japanese, and all markets are very, very different. And along the way, of course, we learned a lot of lessons of how to build and scale a bot of something like this. So we realize it's kind of a 3-pronged approach. You have to make sure that your customers' expectations are managed, because right now your distribution strategy of software products is so easy. You have an A/B testing, or you have an experiment tool, you press one button and your product is in the hands of millions of customers, right? But when it is in the hands of millions of customers, you also have to manage millions or different variety of expectations. So how do you do that at scale? All the while making sure that whatever you're building meets the business expectations. So it has to be business viable as well. And ultimately, because this is a product that kind of liaises or has touch points into our customer service and also humans, how do you make sure the 15,000 agents who are working 24/7 behind the scenes to answer your queries are also in the picture and can help train the bot and can help champion the bot? So I'm going to just tell you very short stories, right, to drive the point. So this one time, one of our customers was using the bot, and that time the bot could only speak English, right? So he was trying to use the bot to actually get in touch with the property and had a question. Must have spent 15 minutes to write a very long message. It was very detailed, very well written. Wrote the message and sent it to the bot. The bot thinks and then replies back, "Please continue in English. I'm not trained to speak Dutch yet." Of course, the guest was really frustrated. We've all been there, right? We've all been there talking to bots and we're like, okay, this doesn't work. So the guest expressed their frustration on the machine. But the way the machine was programmed, the machine said, "I can't help you, but I can forward it to somebody." So the bot forwarded that frustrated message to the property and said, "I sent your message to the property. I'll get back to you when they reply." And then you can only imagine what happened afterwards, right? So thankfully, we have our able customer service agents who could help us in this situation. But the point here is that the customer is never wrong, right? The customer is, we should have managed the customer expectations better, that they do not reach a situation like this. And some easy ways that we have learned along the way is this. Optimize for transparency. For example, when you are saying forward your message, you should say, "I sent it to customer service," or "I sent it to property," but we also try to tell you when you would get a reply, the expectation of the time to respond, or your recommendations. If you're sending it to property or sending it to customer service, recommend. Give the user a chance to actually choose the path of the dialogue. Even using avatars, really. Initially, we didn't have avatars inside, but we realized once we introduced them to make it very clear who you were talking to. Customers loved it, but it was also a huge business impact. when we looked at our cost metrics, for example. So small changes like this internally can actually bring about, at scale, very, very big benefits. Reassurance is key. This is another one, like here when we are saying, okay, can I get an airport shuttle? We have right now around 18 to 20 topic models that the bot can understand, and even varieties of transport. So right now, the bot is checking in, just to make sure I understand, do you want to be picked up at the airport, is that right? And it's also important to check in initially rather than checking in later, because if you take the customer down 3 or 4 steps, and you try to check in down the funnel, it is much more dangerous and much more frustrating. And remember, customers using this product are not happy customers. They are usually the customers who have a question or have something resolved. So it's very, very important to manage the expectations correctly. Keep the dialogue on track. This is some language we do not understand. So the bot has to say that, make sure I understand, please continue in English. This is something that had happened actually in the case that I described. However, our learning was to make it more clearer upfront who you're going to be talking to. Adapt to culture. This is a very interesting one. I'll give you some anecdotes as well. So when we took this bot and we launched it in different markets, we actually went into the markets and then tested our bot. We gave it to our users before launch, and we checked in how they were feeling. The Asian markets are polar opposite to how the European markets work, for example. And there's also a factor of whether your culture is reactive or it is linear. For example, the reactive cultures like the Chinese and the Spanish and the French, they always wanted that the bot has a tinge of humor. It should be funny, it should say hi, hello, it should be a little casual. You should have avatars. In China, for example, they all wanted avatars of an animal that was also like a market standard. In France, they wanted the name to be, say, an Amelia, or they wanted it to have a personality, a name. So it's very, very unique, which was not there in other places. In Japan, for example, their way of communicating with customer service is different. They wouldn't just say a question and then ask it, but they first check in. They say hello, and then they're going to check in, and they're going to ask you step by step by step. So it's very different per culture. That is also, we had to make sure, how do we make sure that the booking brand is established, but you can still distinguish between each and every culture using the tone of voice. And ultimately, we should listen to your customer, because that is key. We have various methods in which we do this. We do extensive user research before launching a product. In between, when we launch any products, we use A/B testing to do it. We track it. We kind of listen to the voice of the customer and create feedback loops in the product. So this is about customer expectations. There is another angle. I won't talk about business right now because that is kind of the viability. But there's another angle of colleagues. So then there is another story here that I want to share you because it's very interesting. So one day at morning, 8 a.m., I get a message from one of our account managers, and they have it's a panic mode. And they say, hey, Ellora, I think the bot has not been very nice these days. The bot is not behaving nicely these days. And I'm like, pretty sure the bot doesn't know any new habits or is not developing its own habits on its own. Can you please elaborate on what happened in the case? So it turns out there was this case where the guest had asked a question and did not get the answer that they expected from the property. In this case, there was a special case of an escalation that had happened. But the point was not about that the reply that the customer got. The point here was that our colleague, and then when we have 15,000 of them, might think that the bot is capable of doing something that it is not. And that can be very, very dangerous. Because ultimately, we as product people are only launching the bot. For us in booking, it is our agents who are really training the bot. They are the ones who read the messages, who annotate the messages, who give us continuous feedback all the time to improve our products. So we have to find ways of how we keep the dialogue open between them, empower them to share feedback and improvements all the time because they are your front line. And ultimately, there has to be trust because they have to be championing their bot. And it is not an imagined apocalypse that's going to come. And which is the key reason as why we have been able to scale so quickly and so efficiently because of our customer service agents. Which brings me back to the original point that we are not just a chatbot, but we are like a hybrid assistant where humans and the machine kind of play an equal important role. So this is kind of the stories and the learnings that we've had from scaling the bot. And messaging, I think that's the last point that I would want to make, that messaging is a very, very easy user interface to use. It's something that customers love. Very, very low friction. The adaptability is really quick. Once you make it smart, that is the way businesses can scale this UI and leverage it to create something new. But if you were to ask me that today, have bots taken over the world and is this the apocalypse, then the Game of Thrones fans would understand. I would say not today. Thank you very much.